reproduce what you're doing.
Yeah, and we did. And the video of the introduction was a really good thing. The video itself, and
so
I
faster than I feel like when I watched it before, so I was like,
yeah, it was a little bit fast.
Yeah.
And a lot of those kids are like, the first thing that they're thinking is, oh my gosh, what is he talking about?
Right.
But not necessarily what. It took them about halfway through to get through how fast he was and his mannerisms to go, oh, he's telling us stuff.
Yeah.
But the information he gives was really good. So I can see why you chose that video.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that I would use it again. I mean, it's one of those things that I would keep looking for one. Or, you know, because, yeah, it was really fast. But again, it was an introduction, and it was something that was really cool. I mean, it was on their level. I mean, they understood the vocabulary, they understood the pictures, they understood exactly what he was saying. He was just saying it so fast and in such a mannerisms that it was really hard to follow. So basically, again, I would have, you know, yesterday I tried to introduce them a little bit to, by the way, remember what we were talking about?
Yeah.
We're going to continue that. But then we jumped right into, here's a map.
Right.
And so today, having the video was better, but we still jumped into the maps really quickly.
Okay.
You know, so I would have waited and maybe talked about it a little bit more, gone over some more of the, you know, remember yesterday where we did these tracking of coordinate planes where they were all looking at you. Because what they were doing with theirs is they were all trying to figure out what you were doing and looking at theirs at the same time, which would have been a really good thing to have, but they didn't quite understand what you wanted them to do with it because you didn't have a chance to show them. You know, it's like, here's your copy, everything's labeled, and Jaden's like, well, then what do you want me to do? It's already labeled, you know.
So like putting it under the projector and then talking about it first.
Yes.
And then handing them theirs.
Right. And saying, okay, guys, let's do a couple. All you have to, I've already labeled this one for you. This one is just an example. We're just going to put the points on here.
Okay.
And do that together after you'd explain to them what you wanted them to do with it. Like, this is an example. It's already labeled. This is for your reference. Let's go over a couple of these points and do that on the board and on the camera first.
Okay.
Then give them their copy and do a couple more. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, guys. So here's your example. This is what I expect you guys to do. And then, okay, now instead of handing it out while they're still working on this one, okay, because you handed out the second map while they're still working on the first map, and like, okay, guys, get out the second map, and now let's. And so it was they were a little discombobulated with it.
Okay.
Like, which
I guess
one
I
am
didn't
doing?
really know how to transition between the three of them.
Yeah.
When you had some fast and then some that were still going to take some time. So I was like, well, I guess if they understand it, then I can let them move on if they know what they're doing. But
yeah, and I saw that you
were
were
like I
walking.
was still losing.
Right. With I think it was the third one. You started walking around going, let me see your second one. Okay, here. You know, let me see your second one. Okay, here. Which is, you know, can be done, especially when you've got some slower kids, that giving them that third map before they're ready would have just made it even worse. So that was okay. But I think that they were a little confused about what you were doing with each map. You know, and I remember at some point you did say, oh, by the way, here's your example. The first one is an example. The second one we're doing together, and the third one is on your own. But that was all. That was the only reference to what they were doing with these three maps. So maybe kind of stepping back and introducing one at a time, introducing them at the very beginning. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you three maps. The first one is an example, and this is what it looks like, and this is what I'm going to have you do with it, and then hand it out, and then do it. All right. Now you've already said this. You know, we introduced at the beginning. Okay, now we're going to do the second one. Remember at the beginning I told you the second one we're going to do together. So everybody put map one away, get out map two, and we're
that
going
transition part that I'm.
And is everybody with me? And wait until you have everybody. And that was a lot because there was a lot of people doing different things.
I think that was the hard part today was like the waiting, and I was like,
it was like, hey guys. And so then on the third one, okay, the transition between second and third was okay. I'm going to explain. I'm going to walk around and I'm going to check your map 2, the one that we did together, make sure it's complete, make sure that you understand what you're doing, and then I will give you map 3, which needs to be done on your own. Okay, and then giving them that and making sure that they had all of that, and then giving them time to finish it. Okay, now at that point, when you saw that they were losing it by the end of, what was your feeling?
I just felt like they were done. I felt like it was almost like too easy and they were bored. And so I was like, well, I mean, maybe it is too easy and they did this yesterday. So, and yesterday's was a lot more detailed and a lot more colors and stuff like that. And today was just basic.
Yeah.
And I wanted it like that for them to just like get the feeling of it and the feeling of the river so that we can move on to the river part. But at that point I was like, there's no way we can get in a group. I just don't feel like it would be constructive.
Right. And that's because they were already lost. I mean,
Yeah.
now, and I'm not going to say that they were lost. They understood everything, but they were in so many different places at that point. You would have to take pretty much everything away and started a new lesson.
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of went, okay, we really don't have time for that to start all over again.
Yeah.
So let's, pull this out. And that's when we decided the 20 minutes would be better spent finishing than introducing the second part of that lesson.
Yeah.
So when you go to plan this next time, how would you change that?
I would definitely make sure that I have the transitions. It's really the transitions planned out better. Knowing that some kids are going to be faster and some kids are going to be slower, but that's okay. And then making sure they know you have this much time to work on this map, and then, okay, put it to the side. Okay, let's get out our next one, do it together, the instructional thing in the beginning and everything. And then at the end of it, do a full wrap up. Almost like going back to the would you rather of like, okay, so now these people would rather have lived near the river, like we learned in the video, from a different video, but, and then be able to explain at least geographically why that was a better idea for them, given that the mountains are up here and the hills are down here, so we're getting to the valley, which means their worksheet gave them good clues on that too. And then that could be its own transition of, okay, so now we're moving into this.
Right.
But just making sure it's more organized for them so that their brains aren't bouncing around.
Right.
Because they can't. They're not.
Good.
And I can't either. And that's not something I can't learn from a teacher that does that.
Yeah.
And so I need to realize when I'm doing it to make sure, because I know my brain's like that. And so I need to make sure when I'm doing it, so I'm not giving them that brain path.
Right. Not good. And like I said, you could have easily done that second part if that's what when we're done with map 3, after so many amount of time. All right, so you're not done. That's okay. Now we're going to go into this other part, and it would have been a much easier transition if they were still in that flow by giving them. And I know this was your way of trying to get those kids that were already finished something to do instead of giving them the.
I honestly didn't think they were going to be that excited about the crossword puzzle. And then when I saw how pumped they were, I was like, in my head, I literally was like, uh-oh, this is about to get wild.
And and that's kind of the learning experience.
Yeah.
I'm like I could have stopped you, and I'm like, no. She needs to do this so that she can see what happens. Because that takes practice, and that takes experience. It's like
because it was like a reward.
Yeah.
And so then it was really exciting, which was great for the kids that did finish and they do their work and that stuff.
But since you weren't done with the lesson, that was probably
can't do that in the middle.
But that's okay, and that's how we learn these things, and we get a feeling for the kids and how they react to things. The other thing too, I noticed that you were talking about the irrigation system and tying, and the only reason I even mentioned that because you didn't know that we'd done irrigation system. That kids really got into that because they were like, oh, something that we really did and grasped onto. And I know you weren't quite prepared for it.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't know you guys knew so much. Oh, I would have gone way more into this.
Exactly. And that's like, oh, I wish, we could have somehow made a little bit more connection between this and the thing that they already knew about.
Yeah.
And saying, this, so how did the Indus people do this? And so
so
that connection would have been, and it's not that you didn't, if you had been their teacher the whole year, it would have been an easier thing to connect to.
Yeah.
As that being part of the lesson. It's like, oh, we're going into irrigation.
That caught me off guard. I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
I wish I knew. That would have been. They would have just been so much more into it.
They would have. Then that's okay.
And then just having to move away from something that they're already excited about, and then they're like, oh, now I gotta do this.
Yeah, and that was, oh, we were talking about irrigation. No, we're not talking about okay.
Okay.
So that is it. And again, that's just learning the flow of a kid's brain and figuring out where their ins and outs and their. So those are some of the things, that I was like noticing. I did notice that, trying to get them more on track when they did come, when they started, because that was one of the things I'm like, oh, she needs to do this. And then like 2 seconds later you did it. I'm like, oh, good. Yay. Because then you were able to figure out that, this is more where they should be. This is, all right, they started going away, I need to pull them back. And you have to make those decisions every day. You could have 5 things planned. Yeah. If they're not ready for them, you don't have to do them. But it's better to have those 5 things ready and know where your kids are and then be able to just, and go through them. But it's also important to know when you've lost them and how to pull them back. And, and to make, the other thing too is a lot of them didn't know, and again we talked about this, why are we doing this and where are we going with it? At the very beginning is, all right, we did this yesterday, so where are we going with it today? Why are we doing this? So when I go in on Monday to teach them, we're going to start we're getting away from the geographical and more into the cultural. Right. You say, okay, now we have the civilization based on the river systems and based on this. Now, how does that affect the civilization, the actual day-to-day life of these people and how their culture has evolved? Yeah. So you need to make sure that they know this is why we're doing it, and like I said, some of the kids don't care. Some of the kids are like, I get to draw, I get to do whatever and some kids really need that. They kind of need to know what we're doing and why. So,
I think I cut you off from yesterday's.
Right, and there wasn't a wrap up. There wasn't a closure to the lesson. It was more like, okay, everybody go back to your seats and work on what you haven't finished. Yeah. So there wasn't a closure to the lesson itself.
That's true. And I think I think at that point I was like,
now we just need to get
exhausted, so I just need to get you guys focused. And
sometimes that happens, Yeah. Because it is one of those things that you, as a teacher, you want to establish. And of course, coming in and a weird time, you weren't able to really establish this. Is that the management part is really important, especially in the beginning of the year. Yeah. And to keep reinforcing that management, because you're like, I have to teach this content. I have to teach this content. But if they're not going to sit still, they're not going to listen, they're not going to pay attention, they're not going to follow these procedures, they're not going to get what you're teaching anyway. And it's almost better to spend more time making sure you have the management piece down before you start the content. Yeah. Because yes, the content is there, but it's not going to be, we're not robots and they're not computers. We can't just, here it is, you're going to take it in. Right next, here it is, you're going to take it in. It doesn't work that way. You have to make sure that they are engaged and they know what to expect and that they have that management down. And that, like Alejandro, watching the clock, 3, 2, 1. I'm like, Alejandro, what are you doing? Oh, well, I'm done. And those are things that, again, come back from experience, come back from what do you do. And you did handle that well, I have to say. Those two wanting to work together. Yeah. Foreseen. And it's like, you already could see that they were not going to be doing it.
They'd already been poking everybody else, and Yale had a moment with Drew already, and I was like, no. Yeah. I was like, not going to work.
And your answer to that, well, why? I was like, because you've already demonstrated in the last 5 minutes that you guys are not going to be able to work together. If you sit and you show me you can work by yourselves, I might let you do it. And that tells them, oh, okay. Now they're still going to argue with you. They're still not going to like it. But you've established that you're not accepting that behavior.
How do you normally do they ever argue back with you like that? And what's your...
Not as often as they did at the beginning of the year. Okay. At the beginning of the year, yes. Because what are they doing? They're testing their limits. Yeah. What can I get away with this teacher? What is she going to accept that other teachers may or may not accept? Yeah. And so at the beginning of the year, they tried that. And I'm like, Yeah. And they know not to talk back to me because it doesn't really do any good. Yeah. So, but with you, they don't know that. And so they try and figure out, well, how far can I take this? Well, you established today that, I'm not going to take that from you guys. And you guys can argue all you want. You're still not working together because you guys can't handle it. And give them that opportunity to prove it to you. Because if you don't, then they just assume that gosh,
Doesn't matter
she's never
anyways.
going to let us do it anyway, so let's try and get away with it as
Yeah.
much as possible. But if you say, look, you proved to me that you can do this the way that I'm asking you to, I have no problem with you two working together. But then that says, okay, well, if we're good and we do what we need, then we can do it and be successful, you know? Because Alejandro really wants to be successful.
Yeah.
Yale is trying, but not quite there yet, but he wants to be. But if you like, you know, and you have to establish like this, so this is the limit, you guys, and I'm not going to take it beyond that point, you know? And so it just, and again, it's spending time with them, getting to know them, and then knowing how they know how you're going to react.
Yeah.
So, again, that is all experience. That's why this is so good, because you can do it now in this safe zone.
Yeah.
You know, when I was like, okay, I can do this, I can figure this out. So when you go into your own classroom, you know what to expect, you know how to set that stuff up ahead of time.
Yeah.
And it's going to make you so much easier. So, this is all good stuff. All right.